Hello all, I'm Skywalp SCS, but that's not important right now as this episode we are checking out Transformers number 4 from the December of 1984 by Marvel Comics. This issue marks as number 4 in the 80 issue limited series, and despite the text on the cover, all is explained about the future of the title inside. It's also our first issue with a consistent pencil and writer, as our opening splash page picks up scene for scene where we left off last time, with a somewhat distressed Buster thinking his dad has left the Autobots high and dry in the war against the Decepticons, as our robot heroes look on in shock. Now we know that Huffer quite often gets characterised as being homesick, and he steps in to take Sparkplug to task, who again reminds us of his military service, so be sure to take note of that point for later on in the story. Ironhide does try to reason with them, but to no avail, and as the human pair try to make a sharp exit stage left whilst the infighting continues, Jazz, who clearly hasn't listened to a word Ironhide has said about how fragile humans are, decides that since Spider-Man was in the previous issue, perhaps Johnny Storm would like to guest star in this one, and in his rush to name drop his in-bio flamethrower, decides that setting fire to the Ark in a bid to stop the humans is clearly the most sensible and proportionate course of action, causing poor Sparkplug to collapse. So next we get some context for the implications on our townsfolk about having a robot fortress on their doorstep, as O, who clearly hasn't read the G1 scale chart, is startled by his dad in Optimus cosplay. It would look like that even in 1984 the third-party sellers didn't miss a trick. But across the way, Jesse is still concerned for Buster, and rightly so as we switch back to the Ark with our casualty and the Autobots still needing some remedial biology lessons, as Ratchet steps up to use his alt mode to whisk the pair away, as a delirious Sparkplug has some flashbacks to his military time and having had his skills put to use by his captors. Keep paying attention to that plot point. We get some quick-witted thinking from Buster to explain why he's in possession of an ambulance, as we switch back to Fortress Sinister and the freshly fueled Megatron takes on the full onslaught, no, not that onslaught, of the US military in a 15-minute artillery barrage that literally has no effect on him, and he laughs in the faces of the humans and returns from whence he came. This really gives you an idea of just how powerful a foe he's being depicted as, especially with the new fuel from Sparkplug. Inside the fortress, however, we see some of the casualties from our last issue and the incursion by Gears and Spider-Man. Now, I'm not entirely sure where some of these generics shown rendering repairs came from, but since the Decepticons didn't really have a designated medic at this point, it makes sense from a writing perspective, so we'll let it slide. But Starscream still feels the need to undermine his leader and quickly feels Megatron's frustration via a name-checked blast from the fusion cannon. So we're just shy of halfway of the issue at this point, as Huffer relays the findings of the Ark's probe to Optimus. The Marvel references from the previous issue continue as the Savage Land gets featured, and Jim Salicrup lays down future plot threads with Shockwave, despite this potentially being the concluding issue as far as the readers are aware at this time. But as we move into the 1985 toy line, the reveals don't stop there, and we get some incredibly toy model Dinobots in their alt modes, and a mystery for both the reader and the Autobots alike as the monitor goes offline. So we'll see if that probe comes back with anything, as Optimus is keen to move swiftly on, as he unwittingly lets Ravage know of his side's current predicament, and Megatron wants to take full advantage. Starscream does seem to have made quite a quick recovery from his earlier admonishment, and we get some more dialogue just to reaffirm exactly who is in charge, ensuring both we the readers and Starscream are left in no doubt. Now, I've not been able to find any subsequent mention of the tubes of transference, but it would seem that a few Autobots who do remain operational are able to siphon off fuel from their sideline colleagues and power themselves back up, although this does still only leave 5 of them to face off against Megatron and his horde. So, with Jazz already having tried to torch the place on a previous page, Megatron wastes no time in putting a hole in the side of the smouldering volcanic mountain, having clearly paid as much attention to Earth geology as they have done its biology. Now, I don't know about you, but I love some of these early battles in the Marvel book, as the characters constantly get to showcase their abilities and link in with the toy line. Mirage gets another highlight here and a rematch with Ravage that he only just wins, leaving a stealthy cassette bot out cold on the floor. And poor Ravage has definitely not had much luck these last couple of issues. We do get a quick interlude from the action as the probe we saw earlier is crushed by a giant purple robot arm that punches through the ground and crushes it mid-flight. Just as well the mysterious owner didn't get their left hand free first, but I don't want to be giving out spoilers for a 40-year-old comic book in this video. But back to the arc, and the Decepticon assault on Autobot headquarters is in full swing with our heroes both outgunned and outnumbered. Bluestreak is sadly no match for a fully fueled Megatron, even with his tech spec readout giving him a 9 as his shoulder rockets are quite literally shrugged off by the Decepticon leader. But another brief interlude gives us an update on Ratchet and his absence from the action, who is taken on a blue light journey by some very well-meaning paramedics, while Sparkplug continues to have flashbacks to his military time and how he was able to sabotage enemy vehicles before being rescued. I said we needed to pay attention to this plot point, and I wasn't lying. But as the weakened Autobots make their stand against the relentless Decepticons, Prime and Megatron get a one-on-one as Megatron shreds the heroic leader's right arm, Huffer falls foul of an aerial duo, a freshly rebooted Ravage gives Ironhide a run for his Shanix, and Buzzsaw goes full Goblin Glider on Paul Mirage. But the real fight is between the two faction leaders, and as they trade blows, and Ravage ultimately provides the distraction that allows Megatron the upper hand, who gets to blast Optimus with his fusion cannon, hoisting him up high as he declares victory. That said, it's somewhat premature, as remember those flashbacks from Sparkplug? Our shrewd human mechanic sabotaged the fuel he produced in issue 3, and he only had to get nearly burned alive and suffer a coronary to prove it. So, with the Decepticon forces seemingly out of commission, and Optimus eating a huge portion of humble Energon, they would appear victorious until the ceiling explodes in on them, and our final page reveals Shockwave transforming and claiming the ultimate win, with a tagline there in the box of "Not the end," hinting to our reader that more is to come. This was also confirmed by editor Bob Budiansky in this issue's letters page, and there was indeed a number 5 coming out, and it would be here very soon. Now, I can't talk about the finale of this issue without mentioning the 2 reprints that were released internationally and made edits to the penultimate page to treat it as a self-contained story. The Australian released one-shot, which ended up on an enlarged version of the second to last panel, and the UK version that was seen in the collected Complete Works Part 2, which overall sought to reprint those first 4 issues. This actually replaced the final panel of the roof explosion with some recycled art of Optimus and some new dialogue boxes to bring the story held within to a non-cliffhanger stopping point. But as always, the UK split this issue across 2 parts, with issue number 7 reusing the Marvel US cover art and issue 8 featuring this original piece by Barry Kitson. Looking at the dates, you can see that Marvel UK has already caught up to the US counterparts, which will lead them to diversify their output into some well and truly franchise-defining moments. So have you read this issue? And if so, what ending are you more familiar with? Let me know in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. And if you didn't like it, go on, you know you want to. If you want to say hi on social media, you can still find me here. So thanks for watching along, and whatever you do, folks, stay safe.